Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm reviewing a very exciting new product, which is the new Gucci Cushion Foundation. I haven't actually tried their regular foundation yet. I'm not even sure if I'm going to. It comes in this bottle and it's sort of a natural finish, I think. But I heard some mixed reviews about that one, but I haven't heard anything about the Cushion Foundation yet. I'm not sure if it's even released in the United States yet, but it is released in the Netherlands and the rest of Europe. So I got my hands on the shade number 1. I got mine through the Bijenkorf, which is a Dutch warehouse. But I think you can get it on the Gucci site as well. So let me give you a little bit of information before we get into the demo. The refills for this Cushion Foundation are 46 euros and the foundation itself is 65, I think. I believe it comes in only 6 shades. And I'll show you. These are the 6 shades that are available on the Gucci site, and they range from fair to sort of medium. I think that is because cushion foundations are generally loved by Asian people, especially Chinese and Japanese people, and maybe Korean. So I think those are the skin tones that they made it for. Of course, that is a shame. I didn't get my perfect shade either. I got shade 1. And that has a bit of a cool undertone, but I figured shade 2 was too dark. So I guess it's not even perfect when you are very fair. Yeah, they definitely needed some more shades, but that aside, I do like to give an honest review of the product itself. It's supposed to be suitable for all skin types, even sensitive skin. It's supposed to be lightweight and non-sticky. I did try it out yesterday already, and I must say for the first hour or so, it wasn't sticky, but it did transfer quite easily. But after a little while, it set down and it wasn't as tacky or sticky anymore. So I guess that's sort of right. They claim it has a luminous finish, and I do see that. Most cushion foundations do have a pretty luminous finish. I actually own 2 other ones from Chanel and from Holika Holika, and they do have that sort of light luminous finish. And also this foundation is light coverage, but it is buildable to medium, I think. But with the little applicator, it is a little bit tricky because sometimes you take away the coverage when trying to add more. But it is in general, I think, a little bit more coverage than these two. This is the Les Beige Cushion Foundation from Chanel, and this is the Holipop Cushion Foundation from Holika Holika. Both of these are less coverage than the new Gucci foundation. It's supposed to be moisturizing, and I think that's true. And they say the scent is made by a vintage floral accord of peony and freesia and is modernized by a watery citrus accord and evanescent musky notes. That sounds beautiful. I don't think it has a very heavy fragrance though. There are definitely foundations that have more fragrance in my opinion, but I'm not very sensitive to fragrance, so yeah, be warned, it does have some sort of perfume in it. Oh, and I think the formula is vegan, so that's also very nice. And there is 40 mils in this little cushion, so that's a little bit less than, that's about half of a usual foundation. So that's something to keep in mind. It is relatively pricey. So now let's get into the goods. Let's see how this thing looks like exactly. So this is the box. And then this is what the box looks like. I think it's beautiful. It has this pink appearance. It comes with the little puff, and then you open it here. And then you actually have to, I put it back, but I'm going to keep it off. You have to pull off the little seal, and then that's where the foundation resides. And there is a mirror in this as well. So they do say it's perfect for on-the-go touch-ups, and I think that's true, but I would usually use a little bit of powder or other products over top of it, and then, I don't know, I'd never really touch up with a cream product. I would usually touch up with a powder. But maybe for some people it would work. I could imagine putting a little bit on top of my foundation on the nose when it's worn off. Oh, then finally I do have to mention that it has SPF 22. So that's nice, PA++. And it has anti-pollution and anti-blue light properties. I don't really care about all that stuff, I just care about what it looks like. So that's all the information I'm going to get from the site. The rest of the information comes from me. Like I said, I did try this foundation yesterday. I wore it for about 6 hours and I must say it wore pretty well all through those 6 hours, but I didn't take it in any extreme situations. So I didn't go outside, I didn't wear a mask, I didn't do anything that requires sweating or anything strenuous like that. I just sat and read. So in those circumstances it held up pretty well, but I do believe it should have. But I must say, even after 6 hours there really wasn't a change in how high the coverage was. So especially here on my cheeks is where my jawline, I mean, is where you can really see if a foundation starts to fade or break up, because this is usually where I don't put any other products on top. On my nose and on my cheeks I always have something like concealer or powder or blush or whatever, and that does help with the longevity. And also on those places it did hold up really well, so that was nice. Also on my nose, by the way. I do feel like yesterday I wore it without a primer but with a little bit of powder. I think it'll wear better with a gripping primer underneath, especially in places that are a little bit more slippery, like your nose or your chin. I think it would really benefit from a gripping primer, so I am going to use that one today. Today I have a little bit more on the agenda. I am actually going to my parents' house for my boyfriend, and we're going to dinner and we're going to travel by car, and I don't know, it's not very strenuous, but at least it's a little bit more than sitting on a bed reading. So I will wear this foundation for about 12 to 13 hours, I think. It's now 10:30 and I'm pretty sure I won't take it off till 11 or 12. So it will be a nice wear test. So now let's get into the demo. I'll zoom you in a little bit so you can see perfectly what it hides and what it doesn't hide. As you can see, I do have some hyperpigmentation. I don't really have any active breakouts at the moment, so that's nice. But I do have some marks left over from previous breakouts. I don't really mind those. It's just nice to know how high the coverage is based on that. So what I noticed yesterday was that you could still sort of see the spots, but they weren't as red and they weren't as dark. And the rest of my face, like here on my forehead, there's some discoloration. I think it covered that pretty well. So the gripping primer I'm going to use is the L'Or Radiance Primer by Guerlain. I think this has the same properties as like a Milk Hydro Grip or something like that. And I think it's supposed to be a little bit luminous, but I don't feel like it really adds any shine. It's just, it looks nice in the bottle. But this is a very, very gripping primer. I can already feel it sort of texturizing my skin, which is exactly what I need. So I am going to take the little pad that comes with it. And this is how it looks. So you can see right away that the coverage is pretty high. I'd say that before blending out, it looks like a medium coverage. But because of the properties of this little applicator, it does blend out a little bit. And it is difficult to go over places that you've already touched. And therefore I'm leaning towards a light medium coverage. Thing is, the shade looks really light and really pink, and I definitely would have preferred something just a little bit darker and a little bit more yellow. But when everything is blended out and I'm adding my bronzer and everything, it looks pretty okay. I do really like the way it sits on my forehead. And I must say, now that I added the gripping primer, it goes on top of my nose very well. I had a little bit of trouble with that yesterday. Alright, that's the foundation applied to half of my face. I look very ghostly at the moment, but I think this is about the same shade as the Fenty Blurring Skin Tint in number 1. I think this coverage is just a little bit higher, but it looks like it is the same shade. And I think that when my sort of summer tan, which is very light, has completely faded, it will look even better. But I always do like lighter foundations over darker foundations. And as you can see, compared to my neck, it's not actually that bad. So as you can see, it does have a luminous finish and it does transfer. So when I go over with the little applicator, it does pick up. So I'm not going to disturb it any more than I have to. So yeah, I think medium is actually right. This does even blend it out. It does have a medium coverage, which I like. I really like cushion foundations because of their sort of creamy texture. They're sort of bouncy, like a cushion. I know it is a cushion foundation because the product is dispensed in a cushion, but the foundation itself sort of feels cushiony too. It's sort of like a liquid mousse. And I really like that. I usually don't really like these little applicators, but this one is alright. I think it would also work fine with a brush, but for some reason I always want to use exactly what they hand me to use. See, when I put it all over my face, it doesn't look that bad. It is a little bit too light, but I think it's okay. So let me lean in. As you can see, most of my redness is gone. Most of my post-blemish marks are heavily decreased in appearance. The discoloration on my forehead is pretty much gone. I mean, my skin doesn't look like a mask, but it does look pretty covered. So I think for cushion foundation the coverage is pretty high. And I do really like the way this looks. I'm not going to powder too much. I am going to add a little bit of concealer and therefore a little bit of powder under my eyes. Maybe a little bit on my nose, because I do want to give this foundation a fair shot. And that is how I would usually wear it. But I do really like this. So I'll add the rest of my makeup. I'll keep it a little bit more light and then I'll come back and show you. I'm back. My makeup is complete. I see I have a little bit of blending to do on the forehead. The contrast is always a little bit higher on camera. So now I'm really back. I finished everything on my face. I used a little bit of the Too Faced concealer under my eyes with a little bit of this essence powder, and I did also use a little bit in the center points of my face, but not too much. Like I said, these parts are completely only foundation, and there are some other parts peeking through. I did use a little bit of bronzer, blush and highlight, a little bit of brow gel, the Pillow Talk eyeshadow palette, and Live It Up lipstick by Charlotte Tilbury, both. So that's what I used on my face to complete this look. And I must say, I really like the way this looks. I also really liked it yesterday. I think this foundation is very pretty. You can see even when I applied a little bit of powder, there is still a little bit of shine here. And there's shine all the way through. So the bronzer I applied is actually a matte bronzer, but you can see a little bit of luminosity peeking through, and that's because of the foundation. So, so far I really like it. It is currently 10 to 11. So let's say it's 11 o'clock, and I'll try to wear this for at least 12 or 13 hours before giving you my final review. I will also check in between in the day, so at least one more time. So I'll see you in the next check-in. I'm back. It's now 2:45, so it's been about 4 hours, and I'm here for my first check-in. So I've been checking how this foundation is looking for the past couple of hours, and I must say it's going pretty much the same as last night. So it has dried down a little bit, and it's a little bit less shiny. But it hasn't set down completely, so my most noticeable place where it has rubbed off a little bit is right here. I think I just touched it when I was eating or drinking or something, and it did rub off a little bit. But the places I set with a little bit of powder, so mainly here and here, are still looking really flawless actually. And also the parts that I haven't touched but also haven't powdered, so mainly my jawline and my cheeks, they also look pretty flawless. A little bit less so than the parts with powder, but I still think it looks pretty well. Or it looks pretty good, I mean. Let's see, it has settled a tiny little bit in my smile lines, I think. So this one, I feel like it's a little bit exaggerated, but not intensely so. And it does look very good on my forehead. I don't have very deep lines on my forehead at all, but some foundations do intensify the look on my forehead of texture a little bit. And on my chin it's still looking a little bit glowy. So I think it really hasn't changed at all. This is the same way it looked a couple of hours ago, except for the little smudge over there. So that was it for my first check-in. The next one will probably be in another 3 hours, or maybe at the end if I don't have time. So I'll see you in a little bit. Hello, it's currently 10 to 11 at night. We just went to dinner and the lighting is not great, but I wanted to show you what the foundation looks like. As you can probably see, it has faded a little bit, especially here on my nose and here. What I did notice is that the longer I wore this foundation, the more it started to rub off when I touched my face. So when I just applied it, it was a little bit worse, and then after 4 hours or something, it just got a little bit more emollient, I think. It does feel pretty comfortable, so that's nice, and I do think it faded gracefully. As you can see, I still look pretty okay, but you can see it has faded a little bit. And I do feel like even the places that I put a little bit of powder on, like especially here and on my nose, those actually look pretty oily, and I'm not really a very oily person normally. But overall, I really like this foundation. I would recommend it. I don't think it's perfect for mask wearing or other circumstances that you have to touch your face with something. Then it's going to rub off very easily. But if you're just going to wear it like this on a normal day, I think it wears pretty fine. So that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please consider subscribing. I try to upload 3 times a week with makeup related content, and now I'm going to bed. Bye!